Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Teresa. This is Lost My Thread. Today I want to talk about what I got up to on the final days of Me Made May and spend some time thinking and reflecting on what that challenge was like for me. So just like my previous videos, I'm going to spend some time first talking about the refashions that I got done at the end of the month. Then I will talk about what I was wearing for the last few days of May, but then I want to spend quite a lot of time thinking about what lessons I learned because I feel like there was a lot that I got from the process this year. If you do enjoy hearing about the refashions and you want to see more, I will put a link up here to the playlist and down in the description box so that you can watch through my previous videos. I did a similar thing last year, but last year it was all me-made clothes, whereas this year I was focusing a bit more on some ready-to-wear clothes that were in my wardrobe as well. The one refashion that I have to share with you guys is this one. So this bodice is the Holyoke bodice from Cashmerette. I have made a top out of this bodice before, partly to check the fit, but also for another refashion. And this one I adapted just a little bit by just pinching out a little bit at the top of the bodice and then transferring that fullness into the main part of the bust. I will say the fit is just spot on with this one. Previously the shoulder straps were slipping off a bit, but I have a bit of a hollow chest, so it was just taking in a bit there just to allow the shoulder straps to come in a bit closer together, and honestly I'm really delighted with the fit. Now this one was a dress that I got from Warehouse. It was actually a gift I got from Warehouse. I absolutely love the fabric. The fabric is so gorgeous. It's a really lightweight cotton lawn fabric with this incredible paisley print. The original design was really beautiful. I really did love this dress. It has a beautiful handkerchief hem at the bottom. It was a strappy dress, and I will say that did put me off in more recent years because I'm not really interested in wearing strapless bras, and there's no way I could wear this without a bra. But the main thing, honestly, is that my body has changed. My body has changed shape and it just didn't fit. It was too small to zip up. So in the photos, I couldn't actually, it was a side zip. It was just unzipped because there's no way I could get it up over my waist or my bust. And I didn't really see an obvious way to be able to add any fabric there. So I put out to Instagram in my Instagram stories for suggestions of what to do to remake this dress. I was really thinking it probably could just be a skirt, but somebody suggested using a different fabric for the bodice and creating a new bodice essentially. And I thought, actually, that's quite a fun idea. So I picked up this pink viscose lawn. It's a really gorgeous, like a fuchsia pink viscose lawn from So Me Sunshine. I think the colors really do go well together. I really do like the colors. I don't like the overall effect though. So what I did, and I was trying to make it like look like a cohesive garment. It was intended to be like that. So I took that flounce off from the original neckline of the bodice, put the flounce onto this bodice, and I also used the fabric covered buttons from the original so they match, but I feel like they just pop too much against that fuchsia color. It looks almost, I don't know, a little clownish or something. It's not doing it for me, honestly. I feel like this looks like it's a top and a skirt, but is less wearable than separates. So I feel like it's just not really doing it for me, basically. I put the time in, it was a lot of effort. I also have a side zip in this one, so there's an invisible zip in the side. I kept the original zip, and I actually wasn't sure if I needed the zip or not, because this dress actually has an elastic channel at the back to make it more easy to get on and off. But I felt like, you know what, for myself, I know I can struggle sometimes to get things up over my head. I'd rather just, if I've got the invisible zip, I'll just use it. And something I really liked is the invisible zip had this little tab at the end, which was made in the original fabric, and I thought that was just really nice. So you know when you have the end of your zipper tab, it can be a little bit scratchy, and that's something that I'm gonna remember and I will probably use in the future. So that's for later in the video about things that I've learned, but I thought I would mention it just because I was thinking of it. But yeah, I feel like this dress, the Holyoke dress by Cashmerette, I do need to have a genuine Holyoke dress in my life because I love the fit, I love the shape of the bodice, it's really comfortable, but it's just not, it's not the bodice per se, it's the fabric just being too different. It's just not my thing, guys. I don't think there's anything out and out wrong with it. I just don't love it. And I have a lot of dresses in my wardrobe that I love and I wear all the time, and I know that I'm not going to reach for this one. Now, I am not willing to say goodbye to this just yet because I really do love this fabric and I feel like it has potential. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take the bodice off and I'm going to create an elastic channel at the waist. Now, I don't have a ton of this fabric remaining because obviously I cut off the bodice. The bodice was a little like a triangle for the front and barely a little wedge for the back. But because it was an empire waist bodice, it went right up to my bust, and I wanted this one where it was going to meet the bodice of my new bodice. It was going to be more at my natural waist. So I chopped off a decent section of the top of the skirt section. And so this wouldn't be wide enough to just go across for an elastic channel. But if I chop it up and piece it together, it could totally work just to be like a 2 sections essentially for the front, 2 sections for the back, and then I've got a full elastic channel. So I'm gonna go ahead and use this, make an elastic channel on this skirt, and then honestly, I think that's gonna be much more of a win for me. So I will say, you know, it's the end of May, and in theory, I had thought, and definitely in the past, I felt like, that's it, I'm done with Refashions. Let's put everything aside until next year. If I really want to do stuff, I'll do it in May. But I feel like I've actually kind of got the bug, and not that I'm going to necessarily straight away alter this dress because I do need a little bit of a breather, a little bit of space to sew some just normal sewing projects from start to finish, because that really is what I enjoy most in sewing. But it's nice that I'm still feeling excited to continue along. So I do think later this month in June, I'm going to do the small little effort it's going to take me to make that a skirt. And I'm really hopeful that I will then really enjoy wearing it in the summer, because this fabric is so lightweight and floaty. It really does feel like it's floating around you when you walk around. It's delightful, and I need to try and incorporate this fabric into my life, and I think the skirt is going to be the way to do it. So now I just want to quickly run through what I wore for the final days of Me Made May. On the 29th of May, I was wearing my Maya Sotis dress by Deer & Doe. This is in a really gorgeous Indian block print cotton fabric that I got from Merchant & Mills. I love this fabric. I really, really do love this fabric. The colors are great. I love the block print, the hand that you can see in that block printing, because it's hand block printed. And so you can see points where things don't quite line up perfectly. And to me, that gives it so much more character. This fabric is really lightweight. It is super comfortable. Definitely a good one to wear on a hot day. It does have a sleeve. It's kind of like a flounced, I don't even know if it's quite a 3/4 length sleeve. It's a little bit below elbow length sleeve. I will say the one thing I noticed when I put this dress on, something that's been on my mind, and it's something that in my headspace of Me Made May, I've decided I'm not gonna sit on this. This dress is too short. It's definitely too short. I feel like it's too short for the style. I looked at other versions and I actually think it is just intended to be short, but for me, it just doesn't make sense to me. And it's definitely not long enough that I would feel super comfortable wearing it to work, for example. But I feel like in theory, this dress should be really versatile in my wardrobe. And guess who has got a little bit of this fabric left over? I was really happy to see that I still have some left, and so I'm just gonna add another ruffle to the bottom. So I'm gonna add another gathered tier to the bottom of this. I will share the details when I do that, and that's, again, I'm not in a mad rush to do more alterations like today, but I'm hoping to get that done later this month while I'm still in that kind of like refashion headspace, because I feel like this one will be much more of an exciting one for me to reach for if it was just a little bit longer. And it's such a gorgeous shape. I really do love this dress. Over the top of that, I was wearing my Marlowe sweater. So this is a True Bias Marlowe sweater, often called the Marlowe cardigan because it's a cardigan. I made this one in a really beautiful textured knit cotton that I got from Guthrie & Ghani. I really like the color. I feel like it works perfectly, very much the same kind of red that's in this dress. Super comfortable, really wearable, and it was a really cute outfit, a little longer, and it would be perfect. And then on the 30th of May, I was feeling super springy. I wanted to go full on spring. I was wearing my Peppermint Pocket Skirt yet again. This is a free pattern from the Peppermint Magazine, designed by Paper Theory, in a really gorgeous viscose linen noil fabric, so I had to remember what it was, from Sew Me Sunshine. I love the green color and it's super cute paired with my top, which was a refashion from earlier this month. Came from a dress that I got from White Stuff. The top is the Brea Tee by Halfmoon Atelier. It's a very cropped top, and so I will say I wasn't 100% sure that I would get away with wearing such a cropped top even with the high-waisted skirt, but I realized if I put a little cardigan over the top, I definitely know I'm going to have good back coverage, which made it a lot more comfortable to wear. So this is actually a cardigan that I got from White Stuff. It's where I used to buy a lot of my clothes before I started sewing everything. And I feel like the colors work really well together. It's really bright, it's really fresh, and it felt really very springy and put me in a good mood to wear it. And finally, on the 31st of May, I was wearing my Pippi Pinafore by Jennifer Lauren Handmade. This is in a stretch needle cord fabric that I got from Sew Me Sunshine. Pretty sure this is one that I've worn previously this month. Yes, definitely it's one that I've worn previously. I do wear this one a lot. And under this, I'm wearing the Adrienne Blouse by Friday Pattern Company in a viscose jersey fabric that I got from Minerva. I really love that blush pink together. I enjoy the blush pink and the mustard together. It's a really nice, warm, lush combo. And then it was pretty cold in the morning, so I had to layer over the top of that my Marlowe cardigan by True Bias, Marlowe sweater by True Bias, in a soft knit fabric that I got from Sew Me Sunshine in this really great petrol blue. I was just loving these big splashes of color, and I've definitely been noticing how much I've been enjoying wearing a lot of bold color this month, and it's one of the things that I've been reflecting on and thinking about going forward for styling my wardrobe. And I feel like that then leads in perfectly into one of the topics I wanted to talk about, which is reflections on my handmade wardrobe from looking at what I wore throughout the month. Now, I am somebody who actually keeps a spreadsheet of what I'm wearing, and I will look at each individual garment. I'll keep a little tick list of what I wear each day, and then at the end of the month, I share what were my most me-made items that I wore throughout that last season. So I look at that seasonally, but that's just looking at individual items, which isn't necessarily looking at how I'm pairing things together. So this was just a bit of a different angle, and I think an interesting perspective for me to look at. Now, I will say it was a bit of an unusual month for me, May, because the beginning of the month was full on cold. There were days where I had to scrape my car. It was essentially like winter. And then as the month went on towards the end of the month, it was basically getting into summer. I mean, it was full on sunny in the 70s, really warm. And so I actually partly through the month had to pull out some of my spring summer wardrobe. I do separate my clothes into autumn, winter, and spring summer. And I hadn't quite transitioned over into the spring summer stuff because it's still been pretty cold, like I said, at the beginning of the month. But I had to kind of dig out some of those more summery items because I really wanted to be wearing them for comfort. But it was also really fun to be able to pull those things out that I hadn't been able to wear for a while. So I feel like I probably had more of a variety over this month than I would in a typical month, just because it was a little bit of my autumn, winter, and a little bit of my spring, summer. But one way or another, I still think it's really useful and important for me to look at how I wore my items, how I liked wearing the items that I did, and I want to talk about some themes I identified. So when I look at images of everything that I wore throughout this last month, I think the thing that stands out to me the most is how colorful it is. And I know that I enjoy color and I enjoy combining different colors together, having a variety of color in my wardrobe, and to just kind of see it out there in front of me, like these are the colors you're wearing, these are the things that you're wearing. It made me really happy, and it made me really happy to know that I've got all of that variety in my wardrobe. I will say not everything I wear necessarily pairs together with each other, but I'm okay with that. I like having different styles that I can kind of tap into depending on my mood, depending on my activities. But I feel like the overall arching theme for me is I like colorful clothes and I like bold contrasts of color. I didn't tend to reach for some of the more muted things, some of the more like white, creamy background type things, because I feel like I really wanted those punches of color. Now, I could say that spring coming in is maybe a factor because in spring I want to be bright and colorful like the flowers and the leaves on the trees. Who knows? But I do think that honestly that probably is me around the clock. I don't tend to wear as many neutrals. As useful as neutrals are in my wardrobe and I can pair them with the more colorful things, I also just really enjoy pairing color with color, and it was fun to see that reflected in my wardrobe. One thing that surprised me this month was how many solid colored garments I have that I was wearing throughout the month of May. I think I've got this outdated idea in my mind that I'm somebody who is just obsessed with prints, particularly floral prints, that I buy all the prints and I don't have enough solid colored me-made garments to pair with them. I think that was the case, and probably a year ago, a year and a half ago, I identified that about myself and I made a point to buy more solid colored fabrics, sew with them more often. And now that I've done that, I actually do have a lot of them, and I don't know if it's even like 50-50. I think from what I was wearing, it probably was wearing about 50-50. And it was interesting to me also how many of the outfits that I was wearing that were actually just solids paired with other solids, which isn't something that I thought going in when I was making solid color garments. I was more thinking I needed them for pairing purposes, but actually I clearly enjoy, especially when they're like bright bold colors, pairing them with each other. So I don't think I still have to have this mindset of like, I need more solids, I need to stay away from all the prints. I feel like I'm now in a good place where I've got variety, so I can just make what appeals to me. And I will say most of the solid colored fabrics are more, there's like a texture or there's something to it that's not just like plain fabric. And so I feel like if I can still enjoy both of those elements, it just means that I've got more options when I'm getting dressed. The other thing that surprised me this month was how many like two-piece combos I was wearing, as opposed to like a one-piece dress or a jumpsuit, which is what I feel like I've usually worn the most in the summer and in the spring. I had a lot more separates now that I was pairing together, and I think a lot of that comes down to me incorporating more skirts into my wardrobe, particularly the Peppermint Pocket Skirt. That was easily the most repeated item in my me-made wardrobe for the month of May. I made this for the So Frugal challenge earlier this year, and I have absolutely loved wearing it. I have absolutely loved pairing it with a whole variety of different tops that I've got, whether they're patterned or whether they're solid. And actually, I'm definitely going to be making another one of those skirts. At least another one of those skirts. But also I feel like skirts is something that I used to wear all the time. I used to wear skirts loads. I love wearing a dress, but a skirt is great as well. But I noticed, I feel like it was maybe last year, that I didn't really have many skirts. And so that was the reason that I actually made that particular skirt. And I feel like I kind of reignited a love of skirts that is gone in the past, that I haven't been able to tap into because I haven't had as many skirts in my wardrobe. And it just makes me excited to make more skirts going forward, because I know that they're something that are really fun and comfortable for me to wear, but also when they are skirts as opposed to dresses, I can then mix and match them with all the beautiful me-made tops as well. Something else that was interesting for me to notice is I'm definitely aware that I've been gravitating much more towards natural fibers, and that's been the case for a long time. Cottons, linens, viscose or rayons. But I've actually noticed over the last month that I very rarely wore just a straight up viscose rayon outfit. I was much more interested in the cottons and in the linens that were maybe a little bit more structured, had a little bit more body to them. Some of them were blends, so like a viscose linen blend I absolutely love all day long, and I'm going to wear those all the time. But I feel like I'm definitely going to wear those more than just the straight up viscose. It's interesting just to see how your style evolves. I also was really enjoying wearing really lightweight cotton things, so like drapey, lightweight cotton lawn things that still had a bit of light drape to them, but I feel like I'm just enjoying having a little bit more structure. I'm not saying like no to viscoses in the future, but I just feel like I want to know what it is that is going to be the thing I'm going to keep reaching for again and again, and those are the ones that I want to really try and focus on in my wardrobe going forward. The biggest lesson though for me, honestly, looking over the last month and what I was wearing, is how good I feel about my me-made wardrobe at the moment, my me-made style. I feel like I'm finding myself in my style, and I am able to now make everything that I want. I haven't bought a ready-to-wear outfit or ready-to-wear clothes since definitely 2019, but even then it was probably the beginning of the year. It's been a while since I've decided if I want something, I'm sewing it rather than buying it. And I feel like that just means that I'm able to make things that I really want and really love in the right colors, the right fabrics, the right style and fit that I want. And so it just means that pretty much everything that's still in my wardrobe is something that I'm excited to wear, and it's nearly all me made. Now, I did have obviously a few ready-to-wear clothes that I have now been able to adjust and refashion and get back into my wardrobe, but even though they are technically ready to wear, they weren't, because I had to do some work to make them wearable, or at least to make them more wearable for where I am now in my size and in my style. So I feel happy to wear everything that's in my wardrobe, and I feel really positive about my style and how I looked throughout the month. And I feel like that's a really nice place to be. I mean, it didn't happen overnight. I've been sewing for more than 20 years, and I feel like really it's been in the last 5 years that I've been really just getting super into sewing to a point where it's almost like an obsession. You guys know, you watch my channel, you know I do a lot of sewing. I think about sewing loads all the time. I'm on Instagram all the time if I'm not on here listening to sewing podcasts. I feel like I get so much from sewing, and the wardrobe is one element of it, but having that wardrobe and knowing that I've got pretty much every garment in my wardrobe, apart from probably, I could count on one hand how many ready to wear garments I wear, apart from pajamas. I've got old t-shirts, but like that I wear outside. I feel really good about that, and I wasn't necessarily expecting to be in this position at this stage, considering where I was 5 years ago when I was kind of reigniting my love for sewing. And it's a really nice place to be, and I hope some of you can relate to that. If you're not someone who's in that position yet, honestly, I have not been in this position for long, so keep working at it. Keep chipping away at making the things that you love, and gradually over time it will build, it will grow, especially if you make things with, you know, nice finishing so that it lasts a long time, good quality fabrics. I'm hoping to keep many of these garments in my wardrobe for years to come, and I would love to hear where you guys are in your personal style journey as well. Now, I spent so much time and energy on Refashions this month. I definitely need to spend some time talking about some of the lessons that I learned from that. I want to start with some of the details that I noticed from taking apart ready-to-wear garments, because last year I did Refashions, but it was all clothes that I'd made. And it's always interesting just to notice some differences with construction and finishing that you're going to get on ready-to-wear garments that you won't necessarily see in sewing patterns. So the first thing I'll mention, I already did say before, which was the end of that zipper stop that I saw on that dress that was from Warehouse. The fabric, self-fabric covering the end of the zipper to make it nice and comfortable. Definitely want to use that in the future. I also noticed on one of the dresses that I took apart, the one from Oasis, that the seams, all in the seam allowance, had some interfacing, fusible interfacing going across them. Now I think that's probably just to stabilize those a little bit more. This is a viscose fabric. I also do understand if it was maybe something that was on a curve or on a bias, that would maybe replace stay stitching. Tell me if I'm wrong in that, but not all the pieces were like that. So some of them were just cut on the straight grain and it still had the interfacing on there. I don't know if there's a secret reason that it was useful. I don't think it's something I'm going to do, but it was just interesting to see it there. Something else that I thought could be potentially useful for people to know about is the strapless dress that I turned into a t-shirt, or turned into a tank top, sorry. This was a strapless dress that had a built-in shelf bra. I'm not someone with my bust, I still would feel comfortable with just that shelf bra, but something I noticed that was interesting if you are making a shelf bra is that there was actually some clear elastic in the side seam of the shelf bra, which I think would help just to keep everything forward and stop things from splaying out quite so much. Again, not something I'm particularly interested in, but I thought it might be useful for you guys to know about. The one garment that I felt like had the nicest and neatest construction was the dress from White Stuff. I'm not too surprised, they do tend to be on the pricier end, so I feel like it makes sense that they're going to have a neater finish. But I did feel like the way that binding went around, because I ended up taking that binding off and putting it onto a top that I made, so there was a binding around the neckline. I feel like everything was just really nicely secured, so it was stitched and then it was understitched, and then after the binding was attached, it was then top stitched over the top, and I just felt like all the layers, everything stayed together really neatly, and it all was just really secure and was gonna help that garment to really wash and wear well over time. I washed that dress so many times I cannot tell you, and the color stayed really beautiful. All the seams stayed nice and finished well, and I'm hoping that my me-made garments will similarly last a long time, but I feel like it definitely helps when you're starting with a good starting point. That brings me to what I noticed was in my wardrobe as far as ready-to-wear clothes that I hadn't gotten rid of. So all the things that I refashioned, or I decided I wanted to refashion, it wasn't that I necessarily wanted to keep that style of garment. A lot of them didn't really fit me properly, but the one thing that made me keep those garments was the fabric. Clearly that was something that I didn't want to let go of. It was not something I was consciously holding on to. I didn't necessarily think that I was going to cut them up and turn them into different garments. I just knew that I loved these things and I didn't want to say goodbye, but actually being able to just use that fabric and make a completely different garment felt so wonderful and felt like such a nice nod to an old loved garment, and being able to then put my hand in it made them feel like they were definitely more my style and to my unique tastes, and then even more exciting to wear. I also found it really fun and creatively satisfying to take what I started with and to try and work that into a new garment. Sometimes I needed to actually piece things together. It was really fun when I was able to actually keep some of the original design elements, so I felt like I could remember where they came from, or they were things that really made me love the original garment in the first place. I'm particularly thinking of the pajama set that I made from a robe that I was able to keep that trim on there. And I did have to piece it together under the side seam, but I felt like that was an area that it wasn't going to be particularly noticeable. And I feel like it was really fun to be able to get that full set out of the robe. There was a whole lot of pattern Tetris going on in addition to piecing some things together, but I feel like the main takeaway for me was just how fun it was to try to breathe new life into these things. Last May, I made a pledge to work through all of my old me-made garments that weren't getting worn and alter them to make them more wearable. Going into the ready-to-wear wardrobe as well this year for me, I think just made it feel a little bit less precious. I didn't really mind as much cutting up these old ready-to-wear clothes that weren't getting worn. I didn't have as much of an emotional connection to them because I didn't sew these things, and it definitely felt like a pretty low-risk proposition. So I felt like I was able to just be a little bit more relaxed and experimental and not worry so much about the finished garment. On the whole, I had a pretty good hit rate. I only had one thing that I just didn't really love, which I told you guys about earlier today. But I feel like everything else turned out really wearable and it was a big success. And I wouldn't have done that if I hadn't been willing to experiment. So definitely, guys, I recommend doing a little bit of experimentation. If you have been inspired and you want to try to do a little bit of refashioning, start with ready-to-wear clothes that you're not wearing, or go to like a thrift shop, charity shop, buy some things inexpensive that you feel like you maybe really love the fabric, and see what you can do to play around and make something that's wearable and more your style or more fitted to your unique body. But I feel like on the whole, it was a big success and a lot of fun. Key things just for me with the things that weren't working for me and that I made work for me, comfort is key. If something's not comfortable, I'm not going to wear it. And so whether that means lowering an armhole or just adding some more space in a garment to make things more comfortable, that is a small thing that you can do that can actually make such a big difference. And I feel like a lot of the things that I did were relatively small changes, but they really did make such a huge impact and make garments much more wearable in my wardrobe. And so again, it's just useful for me to recognize that these little things don't necessarily take a ton of time. I mean, I will say most of my refashions that I did, with all the unpicking that I was doing, they really probably did take more time than sewing a whole garment. But some of them, just like, you know, changing a binding or changing an armhole, they're not necessarily big jobs, but they are the difference between me reaching for a garment and not. And I'm hoping that I will not necessarily wait until next May if I find any more things that need a little bit of a change, because I feel like now that I've done that with a lot of these garments, I really am excited to wear them, and it kind of reminded me why I love those garments in the first place. The other recurring theme for me was how important the length is on a dress or on a skirt. I feel like if something is the wrong length, it either feels inappropriate or it doesn't feel comfortable or it doesn't suit the style, and I'm just not going to wear it. So some things need to go longer, some things need to go shorter. But I feel like that's, again, it's such a small thing that you can do to change on a garment. And for me, it just automatically transformed them into being much more wearable. So that's another one that I need to think about if there's something that I'm just not wearing. If I alter the length, would it be more wearable? And seriously, that is one of the quickest changes that you can make. If you have matching fabric, you can easily add a tier at the bottom. You can easily take fabric off if it's just a bit too long. And that is definitely one of the bigger ones that really just brought some things very quickly back into my regular rotation. I have to say, this has actually been my favorite Me Made May so far. And I think that is partly that I now have a me-made wardrobe that I genuinely really love, but more importantly, the bigger pledge that I made myself, I feel like I made it achievable and enjoyable. Last year I pledged that I was only going to work on refashions and I wasn't allowed to sew any new items. Apart from one, I gave myself one that I'd agreed to do as a collaboration on YouTube. This year I was like, yeah, I can sew other things if I want to, but I have to get through this stack of things that I know need altering or refashioning. And I got through all those items. They're not all perfect because I still got that dress that I need to turn into a skirt. And I had other things creep in along the way that I've since now added to the to-do pile. But I got through those things that I wanted to do. And I did actually only sew one other garment this month. But I feel differently about it because I came in with a different mindset, that it was more of a choice. I wanted to work on those refashions because I wanted to get through them, rather than I'm not allowed to sew other things for myself. I feel like there was just a different perspective for myself going in, and I was surprising myself to be in a position where going into June, I'm actually still interested in doing those final refashions that I since discovered or haven't quite finished, because I feel excited about getting those things back into my wardrobe, and also because I just don't feel as burnt out about refashions as I did last year. I have loved reading all of your comments over the last month, and I know a lot of you have been really inspired to try some refashioning for yourself. I would love to hear how that goes. If you guys have a go, I don't always have wins either, so don't worry if it doesn't work out, but sometimes it does, and I feel like at the very least you'll have learned something along the way. So please do tell me your own experiences with refashions, particularly if there's anything that you are interested in trying. I would love to hear how those things go for you. I would also love to hear your thoughts on my refashions in general, my thoughts on my me-made wardrobe up to this point. I will say it's about whether I'm loving my wardrobe, and I am at the end of the day, but it's just nice to get that feedback from you guys as well, because you will have watched what I was doing throughout the month, what I was wearing throughout the month, and it's fun to feel like we've got a nice little communication going on. Tell me how you found your Me Made May as well, if you did take part, if you were successful in your pledge, if you felt like you were happy with where you are in your wardrobe, and if not, what are some things that you're hoping to incorporate into your Me Made wardrobe going forward. I really did enjoy this month. I hope you have all enjoyed following along my Me Made May journey. I will see you guys very soon with another video. Please do make sure that you give me a like if you did like this video. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you want to see future videos, and I'll see you then. Bye!